Welcome, everyone. My name is Julie Burns, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters to this debate between candidates for the Rush Town Council. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan membership organization. We do not endorse candidates or parties. We work to build an informed and engaged public who will want to participate in government to make it work better. We believe that candidate debates are an excellent source of information for voters in deciding who to vote for. We salute the candidates who have taken the time to be here tonight. The League has invited all candidates for each office to participate. We can only have a debate if we have more than one candidate for the office in question. Tonight's debate will be recorded and published to the League's YouTube channel. Everyone who's registered for the debate will receive a link to the recording. We urge everyone to share the link broadly. The rules for tonight's debate are as follows. Each candidate will be invited to give a 1-minute introduction of themselves and why they are running. We'll go alphabetically by last name. We invited 6 candidates, 4 for town board and 2 for supervisor. However, we did not have 2 for supervisor. Since we have 2 candidates for the town council, we can go ahead with that office. Karen, would you like to... Oh, hold on. I have one more piece. We will then begin rounds of questions. The moderator will read the question. The first candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond, and other candidates will have 1 minute to respond. Candidates have been asked to focus on the issues and not to interrupt each other or ask each other questions. The moderator has the latitude to award time for a rebuttal if they deem it necessary. We will begin with questions that the League has already drawn up, but audience members are welcome to submit questions in the Q&A, and we will ask as many questions as time allows. As time is drawing to a close, the moderator will call for a final round of statements from the candidates. Closing statements will be limited to 2 minutes for each candidate. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Karen Morris. Could you turn your camera on and get the debate started?
Certainly. Good evening, all. I'm Karen Morris, and I have the honor of moderating this debate tonight. So I will introduce the 2 candidates that we have for town board of the town of Rush, or town council of the town of Rush. In alphabetical order, I begin with David McGlashan. And Mr. McGlashan, great, if you'll show us, turn your camera on, show us your face. And Marianne Rizzo is our second candidate. Marianne, if you'll join us with your camera. Great, thank you. Just a few clarifications on what has already been said. We have adjusted, since we have just 2 candidates, the timing a little bit. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, not just the first candidate to answer, but both candidates. And second, for this introduction, we'll give 2 minutes so that you can tell us much about why you want to run and why you are qualified for this. So we'll begin with that same alphabetical order. And Mr. McGlashan, if you will take your 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, my name is David McGlashan. I'm running for Rush Town Council. I'm an educator. I teach 5th grade math currently. I've also been involved in non-for-profits like the House of Grace in Buffalo, where I mentored refugee children and also helped to supply food and clothing for them and getting resources for the things that they need. I also was a part of an organization I led called Serve Henrietta, which served the Rush Henrietta community, and also did a similar thing. And we tried to find mentorship opportunities for students, as well as gather food and clothing supplies to really meet the necessities of our community. So really, I do have a community focus here in Rush. I'm not a politician. This is my first time running for office. I just have been seeing my community, and I really do love Rush. And I feel like there's some things that I think an outside perspective could really help. I've been attending a lot of board meetings, and I feel like the voices of our residents really need to be represented here in our government. We need a little bit improvement on transparency and communication. As a teacher, I give myself a 48-hour policy to get back to a parent and have a set in stone answer. And I feel like that can be applied to government here in Rush. We're a small town and can make sure that our citizens are getting a prompt answer, not waiting 3 weeks to hear a reply. I also want to make sure we are financially responsible. I think there's been kind of a little bit of too much spending going on, and the sizing of our town government needs to be reevaluated. So after hearing a lot of the needs of our residents, that's why I chose to run. And I think I'd bring a good approach as a teacher as I educate kids of all different backgrounds and different households, and to be able to represent them in our government would be an honor. And I want to thank again the League of Women Voters for allowing us to have this, because it's super important that people hear from the candidates.
Thank you. Let me, before Ms. Rizzo does her introduction, let me introduce everybody to Gina Hurley, who plays the very important role of timekeeper. So she will hold up a piece of paper, the yellow one, when there's 15 seconds to go for the candidate, and that pink or purple one says time is up. When time is up, I'll ask candidates, finish your sentence, but do it briefly. With that, Ms. Rizzo, if you'll do your introduction, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in the city of Rochester. I went to city schools, and then I went to a Catholic high school, St. Agnes High School, if anyone's familiar. I then went to Geneseo, and I got my master's in psychology. And then I went to a school outside of Chicago, and I got my master's in psychology. And then I decided to become a teacher. First, I was a counselor, and then I became a teacher, went back to school. And I taught in the Rochester City School District for 30 years, and I'm retired. Moved to Rush several decades ago, and I just absolutely love the town. And then I got involved in several citizens committees. I'll name a few. I got involved in the Energy Advisory Committee, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and a committee called Citizens Concerned About Hydrofracking. We founded a small group of us founded a nonprofit organization called the Rush Recreation and Park Association. And the reason we formed it was because our town was given 100 acres of land on the Genesee River right around 2009. And the town wanted to figure out, what are we going to do with this land? But it was donated to our land as park and recreation. So essentially a small group of us petitioned the town and said, well, we've got to make this a park. And so we did. They gave us stewardship of it. And now it's called the 100 Acres Nature Park. And it's all volunteer, and it's all funded by donations. And we're very proud of it. And we've gotten several grants. I'm running because I care about the town, I care about the country, and I care about the world. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Let me do somewhat of a follow-up question then, based on your comments about the recreational space. Ms. Rizzo will start this one. Do you think the town offers sufficient recreation and other programs for its youth to keep them healthy and engaged in positive activities? Ms. Rizzo.
Well, first of all, we do have quite the country setting where we have beautiful parks. We have trails that are stunning in our town of Rush. And there are some recreation programs. I think people are pretty happy with them. There's an after-school program that the recreation department runs. Actually, I think some of the playgrounds need improvements and the parks do need some improvement. So, actually didn't really discuss that all that much with the residents. They didn't bring that up as a concern.
Okay, and anything further?
On that issue?
Yes, yes, on that issue.
No, thank you.
Okay, and Mr. McGlashan?
I think speaking to some residents, they would like to see our infrastructure, like Marianne mentioned, that we have like utilized better for our youth. I think our library does a good job of having a lot of programs for the youth, sponsored by the library, but I think residents would like to have a few more programs for their students. We do have an after-school program, but only the Rush Henrietta School District students have access to that. The HFL district students that live in our town would have to be taken by their parents to that. They couldn't be bused over to it. So really, it is an access issue for those students. I'd like to see that. I think also looking at a little bit of our high school population, that's something that we need to expand some programs for them. We are a right to farm community, but we don't really promote, I think, enough agriculture in our town for our youth to be a part of. Like, there's the private organizations that kids could join, but I think we could do a better job of having some of those things. And even I think technology is another piece that we need to make sure our students are keeping up with the technology trends. Social media and online things can be a dangerous place for students and kids to navigate. And I think it would be nice if our town sponsored some programs that guided students to safely navigate those things and utilize them as a tool versus a toy. But yes, I think also our recreation programs, like Marianne said, we need to make sure that we're keeping our playgrounds safe. Like a resident was told after they said there was a lot of dangerous weeds, like that were pointy for our kids on there, that while they saw them, they could pick them. Well, that's what our town is for, is to keep those things up for them, not for residents to have to do that. That's why they pay taxes for our recreation department. So yeah, I think there is some improvement that's needed for those things.
Okay, thank you. And next question begins with Mr. McGlashan, and the question is, what should the town priorities be? Priorities for the town council to address?
Well, I think honestly, the things that boards needs to care the most about are the residents. The residents need to have prompt answers and communication. Right now, we have a newsletter that only goes out a few times a year to communicate with residents. But communication's a two-way street. We need to have a back and forth conversation to make sure that the issues our town is facing, truly we're solving them with representing the voices of all our residents. We also have a funding issue. That's, I think, the biggest thing we're facing, actually. We went over the tax cap last year that the state puts forward. It's a 2% tax cap. We had a 4.3% tax increase on top of assessment going on everywhere. That's a huge red flag to me to see both of those things go up. This year, they're also projecting to raise it to the cap our taxes and use $1 million from our capital reserve fund to offset our budget. And when we have a budget of 3.4 million in ballpark, and we're using $1 million to offset that, what is the longevity of that? So there's going to be a burden for taxpayers. We really need to examine the budget. Where can we maybe refocus our resources that benefit the most residents? And also communicate with our residents on what's going on. Make sure we're doing this all in open meetings and not violating open meeting law. Our town board just recently did that, actually discussing the budget behind closed doors. So we really can't keep our residents in the dark about this issue. We really should be inviting them in, see what their perspective is, because really this budget is going to be a huge issue going forward.
Great, thank you. Ms. Rizzo.
Improvements needed. What are the challenges? I would say that one of the challenges, like David said, is communication. A lot of times the citizens really don't know what's going on, and there's not enough effort to inform them. And then there's also not enough input in the town board meetings. We used to be able to have people come on Zoom to the meeting. And this present town board doesn't allow that anymore. They used to read the correspondence in the beginning of a meeting. You don't have to read the whole correspondence, but you can say, hey, so-and-so wrote us and said this, and then you could just go on to the next issue. There used to be a public comment at the end of the board meetings as well as in the beginning of the board meetings, and that public comment at the end is no longer there. So I think that we want to put the citizen back into the community, back into the town board meetings. And even the technology in terms of AV and the microphones they're not that good. And my neighbor said that he even left the meeting because he couldn't hear that well. And there's just a lot in terms of accessibility inside the meeting and to the meetings. So that's one thing. Yeah, the budget is a very big concern to be using so much of our fund balance for our operating costs. I think the next board is going to have so many challenges just to keep the operations going and trying to balance that out.
Okay. A follow-up on some of what was included in both of your answers to that question. Many people don't understand what the town government does and how it shapes our community. What will you do to make local government more visible and accessible to residents? And Ms. Rizzo, you've given us some good comments on this. If there's anything more you want to add, this would be that time.
Okay. Well, communication even through visiting homes. We do that now. Some of us visit homes when there's an issue there. We send emails to a group of people at a time because some of them are very unaware that this is about to happen. I think social media will be a way to connect with people more. And right now we only have 4 newsletters annually. And I believe we need more than that. Sometimes if something's going on, there's a 500 feet notice if you're within that 500 feet. But in a rural, then you get a notice about something that could be a development or something that could be happening. But in a rural area like ours, 500 feet isn't even that far. So we've got to extend those parameters and have more notice for people, in the vicinity. So it's just overall improving on the communication and the outreach of that communication.
Great, thank you. Mr. McGlashan.
I echo a lot of the things that Mary Ann has brought up. Our newsletters should be more copies a year. I send out a newsletter even in my school district every single month, and I'd like to see a month periodic. I think we need to utilize e-news. It's important, I think, to modernize that. There's a lot of emails the town has, and we could be blasting reminders and information out to people that way. So maybe even something as simple as, hey, taxes are due this week. Make sure you get into the town hall. Also, I think we should make sure we're using periodicals to publish public meetings in a periodical that the town uses more often. Like right now it's in the Mendon Sentinel, and I don't think a lot of Rush residents order that. Maybe we should be looking into the Democrat and Chronicle or another newspaper that more residents use to publish those things. I also feel like we need a website that is better organized, and I think we need to have someone in the technology department atmosphere monitoring that and making sure that things are organized so residents can access information better online. They just got a new website and it costs a lot, but it's not being utilized, I think, to its potential. And I feel like there's a lot of talented people here in our community that would like to get involved with our town, but we just aren't publishing things in a way so they can be a part of it. Even when there's open job positions, I feel like we could use our newsletter to publish or publicize those openings so that we're not just getting friends and family in the town, that we're really getting people that want to serve our community, and it's merit-based. Rush is very talented, so.
Thank you. Let me say to those who are watching, we welcome your questions. You can put them in the Q&A, and I will read them and pose them to the candidates. So don't don't hesitate if you have a question for our candidates. Next question, we begin with Mr. McGlashan. What can town board members do to make Rush a place that will remain competitive with other great places to live nearby in the coming years? What innovations should be considered? What blind spots might exist in Rush?
Well, Rush is in a unique spot. I feel like we're one of the last very open spots, especially in the south part of Monroe County and as the county as a whole. So our rural charm is something that people are seeking, and they want that spread outness and that fresh air, and to be able to hike on trails and enjoy the outdoors. So I think we are very competitive in that aspect. I do believe we need to revitalize our hamlet. We need to attract some business to our hamlet. There's been a vacant lot there for so many years, and there hasn't been any real effort, I feel, to get something in there that could benefit our community. There used to be a great grocery store and an ice cream place that brought community members together. The state even proposed a plan to revitalize our hamlet, and it was going to extend our sidewalks, make it more walkable for families and safer. And we would have had lanterns for the nighttime so people could walk safely in the street, and revitalize even our Veterans Park. And our town turned that down because they said it was going to cost too much, but it wouldn't even have cost a fraction of what they're dumping into the budget to offset taxes this year. So I feel like we really need a resident-focused approach to some of these things to stay competitive so that we're attracting even young families to our town. It's becoming almost unaffordable for young families starting out to even be able to live in Rush because of the taxation and the pricing of housing. So we need to make sure there's availability for couples to come in, and also to make sure that our seniors can continue to live in this great community and not be priced out of their homes. So maybe even some homes for our seniors to live in so they can afford to stay in the community they raise their families in and live out their lives enjoying our rural community.
Thank you. And Ms. Rizzo?
Would you just repeat the question exactly?
Certainly. What can town board members do to make Rush a place that will remain competitive with other great places to live nearby in the coming years? What innovations should Rush consider? What blind spots might Rush have in this regard?
Well, the first thing is I think people are already very attracted to our town for its simple living and its rural character. And, it's a farming community. And those people who would like to come here, the only thing that's making it difficult for people to live here or to join our community is the high price of real estate. And then if you put on top of it the taxes, which are pretty reasonable, but they're not as reasonable as they need to be. I mean, it depends on how you compare it to other towns. So we're already this gem that I believe people are very attracted to. And like we said, with this, the outdoor beauty and, vistas and trails and parks, which, as I said, still needs some improvement. But, the hamlet is an issue that the townspeople have always discussed, and they would like to see some improvements. And we have to find a way to attract businesses to our hamlet. But also, I think we should do so with maintaining some architectural significance. It's a very small hamlet, but I think people want to have a place to come together. And, there's not a lot of businesses where you can sit down and see your neighbors and build that community spirit. So, and the more that we can do that and find ways to attract signature type businesses, community-based businesses, and also what David said with the walkability of being able to be in the hamlet and have safety and walking to and fro.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up on the housing. Should Rush increase the amount of affordable housing in the town? And if so, what should the town government do to make it happen? And if not, why not? Ms. Rizzo.
Thank you. Um, I believe that the first thing we need to do is to bring the community together and have a forum about the value of affordable housing in our town. I don't know that everyone in our town now is thinking that it's a good idea for our town. One thing is that we don't have services. We are a town that travels with automobiles to get to the markets, and except for the farm markets. Well, we don't have a bus route. So I think that in order to embrace affordable housing, which I do think is a good idea, we really need to have some communication inviting all the residents to get on board with it before. And then we, before moving forward, we'd want to have that support.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
anything more? Were you done?
I just had to think about it a little more, but yeah, for now, yes.
Okay, Mr. McGlashan.
I think as Marianne was getting at, it definitely would be a difference for Rush. And affordable housing is a broad term on what it would look like. So I think, especially like I mentioned before, I do believe we need some senior housing that might need to be affordable for our residents. Like right now, seniors are in very large houses, a lot of them, and it's too much house for them to maintain, especially if they're single and widows. And being able to have something more maintainable for themselves and in an affordable budget range for them, I think that would be something we would need to look at. But we need to bring the community together and consult our comprehensive plan that about a third of our town gave input on, and make sure that we're using that to make the best decision. And like Marianne also said, our infrastructure needs to be set up for that. They just cut our bus route that we had. And it would be important, I think, to reinstate that bus route so that people can get to the necessities that they need, whether it be in Livingston County or Monroe County, because we are kind of a crossroads town for both counties. So yeah, those infrastructure things, I think we would also have to make sure we had necessities met, like a pharmacy or a small grocer in town, to make sure that people could get the things that they need and be sustained. So yeah, I think it can't be something that could happen overnight just because of how the infrastructure is set up. It would be definitely something we would have to plan, and we would need to bring residents together to kind of put that in motion and set goals to target that if we wanted to make some changes like that to our town.
Okay. And a follow-up related, having to do with the pro-housing community program, which was launched by Governor Hochul to encourage local governments to commit to increasing their housing supply, and the state then providing some financial assistance to do that. Do you think that Rush should join the pro-housing community program? Why or why not? What advantages or disadvantages or drawbacks might there be? Mr. McGlashan.
Again, I'll echo, we have to bring the community together. We would only be a board of 5 people, and I think 5 people representing thousands. Yes, we want to represent all voices, but it's best to try to bring community input on that. We are like, I really don't want it to be that it feels like one side is picking something versus the other. I think we would make the decision as a community. If we did not take advantage of that and we wanted to seek that later on, things like that, I think we would miss out on maybe some of those funding opportunities. Again, we would just have to see how it would look. I know a lot of residents don't like the standard like row housing that you see in like larger suburbs. They like a little bit of a larger lot. So if we were able to keep the character of larger lots and also capitalize on some of those things from the governor, I'd say, yeah, the community would probably be open to that. If we could not keep the character of Rush, I think we'd have some resident pushback on some of those things. So again, it's finding that middle spot that everyone could benefit from something like that. and make sure that the residents felt heard on it. Because again, right now, decisions are being made without resident input, really. So I think it's important, again, send out a postcard, say, hey, we want to have a open meeting on this and just really get community thoughts and input, and even send out surveys to residents to see what data we could collect to see where the town would like to shift on that issue.
Thank you. And Ms. Rizzo.
We did do the comprehensive plan. It was published in 2023, just 2 years ago. And the residents spoke that they do love the rural nature of our town. It is what makes it special. And there is this, if there's a way to do it, some people believe that we don't have sanitary sewers. And in order to have a high concentration of homes that may be affordable, and maybe there's a way to do it without sanitary sewers. But if we introduce sewers to town, that could change the town unless we did it only in the hamlet or something like that. But I think any great change like that, I think we would need to have I think it would be fair to have a town referendum. Just because I know that if we get elected, that we'd be there to represent the people, and I think that's our job to do what the people want us to do. So I do envision these row houses that can use like 2-bedroom houses maybe, or affordable housing that could survive in a maybe it's a Pollyanna way of thinking, but without the sanitary sewer, and we can continue to maintain our rural character. But maybe in the hamlet, if people really wanted them, we could convert to a sanitary sewer, but it's really up to the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me once again invite those who are watching to submit questions. I have no questions from the audience. So if there are issues that are important to you and you'd like to hear the candidates' views, please don't hesitate to put your questions into the Q&A. Next question, and we'll start with Ms. Rizzo. What should the relationship be between the government of the town of Rush and our county legislature, and also the state assembly and senate, and our federal delegations?
Well, and we need to work together, absolutely. And so, let's build relationships with them. And we actually need help. Our town is going to need help. And hopefully we can, and I'll talk about that at some point, some of our challenges. But yeah, I think we need to have strong relationships with all bodies of government. We're all connected.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
McGlashan, was there more? Mr. McGlashan?
Marianne, you finished, right? Just checking.
I did.
Okay. So I guess how Rush is positioned, we have both representation on both major party sides. So we really are a purple town. I think it's important that we don't be partisan and that shy away from reaching across the lines to make the best decisions for our town and get resources for our town, like federal grants and state grants. And we need partnership with all of our representation in order to make that happen. So we need a really good relationship with, I think, all of our representation from county all the way up to our governor and higher, and even at the state assembly and senate level. And I would not shy away to cross lines to make sure that we advocate for residents and get the things our town needs. Like, for example, our flooding issue that our town is facing, we need an infrastructure overhaul to make sure that our town members are safe from flooding, and also even traffic safety. And I know I would need to contact my state representation to make sure that that happened in my county representation for the town. So again, we need to make sure we have a great relationship with both sides. Just because we are nominated by a party doesn't tie us to just advocating for one side. That's also why we're running on the Rush Neighbors Together line, because really we truly make the best decisions when we all come together and really voice our concerns and have a lot of input to make sure that all residents' needs are met. And that would be done by having great relationships with all of our representation.
Great, thank you. Next question, and we begin with Mr. McGlashan. How would your leadership styles be different from the current town board?
Well, I like to call it just like my teaching, like I have student-focused teaching style. It would be a resident-styled government. I really feel like currently it's becoming very self-serving, our government in Rush. We have a supervisor that's doubling his salary, setting up his pension plan for the future retirement. That's self-serving, and we really need to make sure that we're listening to residents, making sure residents can afford to live in our town, not getting taxed out of their homes. We have a high senior number of individuals in our town, and they're on fixed incomes, a lot of them, and they're being priced right out of their homes. So again, it's about being resident focused, making sure they can live in this great rural community, making decisions based off of resident input. And Mary Ann touched on that. We need to make sure correspondence is read at town board meetings out in the open. We don't have to share names, but these concerns need to be laid on the table to make sure we really make actionable items that we can challenge ourselves to meet and really make sure residents are having progress and the things that they're concerned about are addressed. And we also need to be more transparent. We need to stop violating the open meeting laws in New York State, going into executive session to discuss things that shouldn't be discussed in executive session, because there's nothing that we should be hiding from our residents, because they truly need to know what's going on. So communication also needs to be improved. And again, let's bring the residents back to the focus of this government and not have a self-serving government here in Rush. It's just unfortunate that's the current atmosphere.
Thank you. And Ms. Rizzo.
Well, as soon as you walk into the town hall, I want people to feel welcome them in. And I want them to feel like we're here to help you and that we're here, we're here to listen to you and to make sure your needs are met. Same with the board meetings. I want people to feel like, yes, we want to hear what you have to say. I know there's going to have to be a little bit of a time limit, but we're here, and we want to become a voice for the residents, for the citizens. Sometimes board members call the people who are sitting in the seats, they call them the audience. They're not the audience, they're the citizens. And so I want them to feel like they can truly participate in the process, and then that we're going to advocate for them and what they need. And I know that there's challenges to do that, because there's budgetary challenges, and there's considering the needs of all residents and balancing all of that. But I know that we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to do a good job with that. Even the way you, like, we're both teachers, the way you organize a classroom, you want to organize the boardroom a certain way. And when someone comes up to the speaker, the microphone's got to work, and to make a public comment. And if they didn't want to, we can hand them a microphone, because maybe some people are a little bit a little bit shyer to make a statement, and encourage the youth in our community to start getting involved in our government as well. And also, there's been so many volunteers who have come in our town, and I don't think they feel appreciated. We've got beautiful Eagle Scouts, we've got Girl Scouts, we've got people in the Historical Society and the Lions Club and the Rotary, and there's not a lot of appreciation shown to our volunteers. So yeah, I want to capitalize on the loving contributions that they bring to us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And next we start again with Ms. Rizzo. Are you supportive of the solar farm being discussed that will be drilling under the Genesee River?
What an excellent question. I am supportive of solar power, absolutely positively. The solar project, it's called Horseshoe Solar. It's also known as Invenergy, is going to come to West Rush. I live in West Rush. I live off East River Road. I do not believe in drilling under the Genesee River. The first thing that Invenergy has said to the residents is that we are going to be testing your wells before any siting of the panels will happen. Now they said they're fast tracking it to drill under the Genesee River and go through the bedrock. It's horizontal drilling. Okay, so I have a lot of questions about, are you going to be using chemicals, and what will that do to the water table, to the wells and to the aquifers in our area? So that to me is very concerning. In terms of the panels, we have a home rule in our town that we can have 12-foot panels and in terms of ground mount panels. And I think that's a very good home rule. And because if you're going to have solar panels, you have to have it in a place that the community is going to accept the solar panels. I have solar panels on my roof, and actually finishing the final install for additional solar panels tomorrow. But I've got a lot of good things to say about these solar companies. But in terms of the large scale tier 3 solar projects, they can circumvent the home rule, which is not good. They can have 17-foot panels. They don't have to have complete screening. And it's not something that the community is embracing. I think if they followed the home rule and had certain setbacks that our home rule has, I think it can be embraced more from our community.
Thank you. Mr. McGlashan.
I echo the concerns of Mary Ann. I do believe we need to stay with our home rule on sizing. I'm also very concerned about what's going to happen to the water table for residents in their wells. Our town board has not done a really great job defending, I think, our town on things like this. This is the second time I think people are bringing up chemical usage, especially near water tables. So I would be totally against using chemicals in any way near that, especially in a town with a lot of wells. You get chemicals into the ground, and now there's unusable water, and residents don't have access to water, especially out. Like Marianne lives in a very rural area in Rush, and for her well to be tainted would be catastrophic for her way of life. And everyone out there too. It would be unlivable. So I would really caution the town on allowing this drilling. All the residents that have spoken out about this, spoken at meetings about this, have spoken against it. So really, the town board should be advocating for those residents. Not one resident has showed up in favor. And I am totally for renewable energy. Like Mary Ann, I'm having my solar panels put on the house next month. So I'm definitely not against renewable energy. I think even this project that with Horseshoe Solar could have been probably better structured, that it benefited our community better. I know there's a small town in near Binghamton that negotiated a similar project and even reduced the cost of electricity for its residents. This really isn't doing any of that. And if anything, it's hurting our community because it's going to maybe devastate some of our farmland and even water tables. So I really would caution going forward with this project. I think our town board has a lot of work to do to advocate for residents to make sure this is safe.
Thank you. Next question. There is great cultural divisiveness occurring nationally. How does it affect Rush? Is there a role for local government to play to keep things peaceful? Mr. McGlashan.
Absolutely. I think we could set like a precedent that we need to work together. The partisanship doesn't hurt parties, it hurts the public the most. So not being able to cross lines and make decisions, you're not hurting each other, you're really hurting the people you represent the most. So that's why I think, besides being a Democratic nominee, that we sought that Rush Neighbors Together line, because really politics can't be partisan in Rush. Otherwise, we will not get things done for our residents. And we really need advocates that are willing to represent all of our town and make sure all voices are heard. We are a very even split, even in registration by party. I know there's a few more Republicans than Democrats, but we have 910 unaffiliated voters. So really, it can't be partisan. We need to make sure our whole community is represented. And why not be a good example that we can come together regardless of your background to make sure all voices are heard in our town. I know I do that in my classroom and make sure that all my students are represented and they're learning and they're getting the things they need. And we need to apply that to our local government. Everyone has a different perspective they're bringing. Let's hear everyone out, bring all stakeholders to the table, and truly make a decision that's based off of resident input, and not make this a partisan issue and attacking sides. Our community would not benefit from that. So yeah, let's be a great example.
Thank you. And Ms. Rizzo.
Well, the last statement that David just said really sums it up for me. Let's be a great example. But before I get into that, I always think of, and the question to me essentially is, how do we work toward more peacefulness as a nation and as a town? But I always think of, think globally, act locally. And as any, if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, you would say that, modeling is the greatest way people learn. How you conduct yourself in your family and in your community is the way that people are learning. They're learning from how you conduct yourself. So I would say, be that change that you want to see. The slogan, that slogan, but just through your actions and showing respect to others, and hopefully that others will model that.
Thank you. Next question. What is your position on the campaign to take over RG&E and turn it into a public utility? Ms. Rizzo.
I love the question. I think I understand the feasibility study is going to be expensive. I went to one of the rallies. I know that I worked in the Rochester City School District, and I know that my students, and I'm retired, but I know that my students, I'm sure my students and the families are facing these problems on a day-to-day basis with the present RG&E. They're not conducting themselves in the proper way. And so, yes, I think that would be the best thing for the city and parts of the county to have a town or county-run utility. I hope that this can happen, and I fully support it.
Thank you. And Mr. McGlashan.
I do also believe that a county-run utility would be super beneficial for Rush residents. I would support that. I think just the cost of electric and powering your home is just rising more and more. And on top of taxes that our town is doing and valuation of homes, like that's adding another cost that's pushing people out of their home. Rush is also in a very unique situation that we have two utility companies that kind of control things. So our electric is controlled by National Grid, and our natural gas is run by RG&E. And many residents are even on propane out in the rural sectors of our town. I think it's important, though, we are advocating, especially with a lot of these improvement plans that are going on. Like the National Grid is building a brand new substation in our town and taking over a lot of rural land with a gigantic substation that's going to devalue that whole area. Also, we could be really pushing for more intervenor funds from the state to make sure these projects aren't decimating our rural land and causing costs to go up for residents. Really, this whole project by National Grid, even in our town, is to benefit more Henrietta, because Henrietta is on a building freeze right now because of their lack of electricity. So why should it be Rush's burden to fix that. Russia has enough power. I think that cost should be put where those that are benefiting the most from it are those that have to put into it more. So yeah, I think advocacy for on both ends needs to definitely happen. And as a board, we need to push again for those intervener funds for these projects going on that are another cost to residents and another reason why people can't afford to stay at their homes. So yeah, advocacy needs to happen.
Thank you. Let me say to those who are watching, we're getting down to the last couple of questions. You have submitted a number of good questions. If you have any additional issues you'd like the candidates to address, this is the time to submit a question in the Q&A. Next question involves the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act of 2019. This act sets goals to reduce emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by the year 2030, and then to 85% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. The question is, will Rush be able to meet the state targets? And if not, what does Rush need to do? Mr. McGlashan.
Well, I actually thought about this just at our last couple board meetings. I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to meet some of those targets with where our town is going. For example, we do have a replacement kind of schedule for some of the equipment for our town, like especially in the Department of Public Works, our highway department. And they just replaced a vehicle with a diesel run truck. So, and it was a very pricey truck that they purchased, and it was purchased 2 years before it was even scheduled to be replaced. And I think if we were considering some of the state mandates that are coming and the ways that we should be planning, that was probably a poor decision to purchase that vehicle right now. We should probably see if the state is going to stick with some of these mandates and things that they're trying to make sure that we're moving towards as towns. I don't even really see our town even trying to run off of renewable energies either. I think that could be one step that we could go towards to save even in the long term as a town. But I also think we probably should have held off from replacing any vehicles this year. One, we're in a budget deficit and we're using that $1 million to offset it. I don't know why we're purchasing things when that's the case. And especially when those state responsibilities that we have to try to adhere to are coming, we shouldn't be purchasing diesel run trucks if they're going to make us replace those anyway eventually. So I think we should have kind of pumped the brakes on it. I do have a lot of concerns that our town's going to meet that. So hopefully if we get in, that we're able to try to make sure that we're planning for some of those things so we don't get penalized in the future for that.
Thank you. And Ms. Rizzo.
Will we meet those standards as a town? It's interesting you say that because I don't know if our town ever received like a quotient of what we should be achieving. And I think that would be a good thing to be, well, this is your piece of the pie. You have this many kilowatts, etc. And now we think you should try to reduce your usage of, fossil fuels by this much. That would be good to have it just for our town. And I don't know if that's been done. And so I think that would be good to have that, goal. I mentioned earlier that I was part of the Energy Advisory Committee. It was several years ago, and we had made recommendations that we start fitting the rooftops of our buildings with solar panels. Rooftop solar is a really good way to go. And any new builds or any big renovations, I think we should be putting in geothermal as a way to offset some of this. So yes, I would. I know that it does come down to budgeting though. I mean, we have to work within our budgets. So I hope that, we got to see it you got to think, we got to think of it in the long range. We'll have to present it and say, well, if we invest now, in the long range, we can be saving money. The other thing is conservation. Conservation is rarely ever talked about anymore. And I think we need to make sure we have conservation in our buildings. And I have ideas on how to do that and encourage residents to have conservation in their homes, a conservation of energy. So yeah, I haven't even heard the word in the last, 10 years? So 20 years? So yeah, I'd like to inspire that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this will be the last question, and then each candidate will have the chance to tell us once more why it is that we should vote for them. So the last question before that sum up. It's not possible to anticipate every issue that will come up over the next 4 years before the board. What principles or values will you use when making decisions, regardless of what the issue is? Ms. Rizzo.
Thank you. Well, when you lived as a teacher, and as I said, I've been a teacher, once a teacher, always a teacher, right? So I taught for 30 years, all at Monroe High School, actually. And and what you kind of, it becomes inbred that you start with, your lesson planning, and you start with what's the objective. So with all the challenges that come to us, we state, what is the objective? So we try to get that as a very crystal clear beginning. And then we try to formulate, the steps to getting there. But I think one of the major steps to getting there is listening. I think that we have to listen to our community. We have to listen to the experts, to science. And I think through that, and in partnership with one another on the board, that we can come up with the most, viable solutions to any of the problems that we're going to be facing. And like life, challenge coming every day. So let's try to do the best we can.
Great. I think that you might have frozen there for just a second. Can you repeat the last couple of sentences?
Just like life itself, there's always challenges that come. And so we're going to have to just try to meet each challenge. And already we're going to be inheriting some, I didn't say this yet, but I'll say it now. We're going to be inheriting some challenges from, if we get in, from the prior board, and a lot of them are budgetary. And I know it's challenging to begin with. I think they have tried to do their best. So yes, just trying to meet each challenge and using the expertise. We have so much expertise in our community, and then seeking out that expertise anywhere we can find it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. McGlashan.
I think, like Mary Ann said, we are going to inherit a lot of issues if we get elected to this board. And I think the theme that both of us have tried to get at is we can't make a decision without our community behind us. So we need to make sure that the community is taken into consideration and really brought to the table to make sure we're making the best decision as problems come our way, because they will. And also there's a board of 5 people. And I think, well, I hope, because I think Mary Ann and I are doing this not for a political gain or a salary. We're doing it because we really care about our community. And we need to remember that when we're making decisions, that we're here to make decisions to better our community, and what can we do to work together to problem solve these things, and really come together to make the best decision. I don't think anyone wishes ill to Rush that lives in Rush, hopefully, and that we can listen to everybody and their perspective in order to make a decision. But again, 5 people is only a small fraction of the entire community. So in order to really make sure that we're doing things for the residents, we need to set actionable goals and take action on those things, and not just set a goal to set a goal. In teaching, we set goals all the time, but also we have to do progress monitoring to those goals. And if we fall short on our action item and our deadline, we need to see what went wrong and what are we going to change in the future. Because if we don't learn from the past, we're never going to do better when we're making decisions going forward. So let's make sure that we have those actionable items and those items are created by our community with input from the community, and that we follow through on those things, not just set those goals.
Great, thank you. For
Very good.
opening statements, I'm sorry, Ms. Rizzo, do you want to add something?
No, I really like what David said about actionable, stages of actionable items. I'm very proud of my partner.
Great. So for opening statements, we went in alphabetical order. For closing, we'll go in reverse alphabetical order. Ms. Rizzo, 2 minutes to sum up.
2 minutes. Okay, so we have a beautiful small town. We value it so much. As I said, our trail network is stunning. We are a right to farm community. We have down to earth friendly people who live here, and but we do have challenges. As David mentioned earlier, the budget is a big challenge. There will be a shortfall for the next administration. And he explained why the present board is going to be using the fund balance, which is meant for emergencies, to use for operating costs. And so that this may force for some capital improvements that are very much needed. It might enforce a bond issue, which is another form of taxing. So that's a challenge. We have flooding in our town. I don't know if you probably heard that in June we had severe flooding. It's not just 100-year floodplain. The hamlet has flooded about 4 times in the last 7 years. A lot of different areas of town have flooded. So what we need, that's a big challenge that we're going to address. And I think we need to do so systemically and regionally. And we need support from the state on this, and maybe from the national government. So a couple of roads came out, they washed right out. They weren't passable. The culverts collapsed. We had one family where they had to rescue them in boats. So yeah, it's certainly an important issue. Traffic safety, there's a lot of places that residents have come to the town board and said, we need help with this. And they said, the speed limits are too high. And there's one intersection that is dangerous. It's, I'm going to state the name of it because maybe it'll save a life. And that's Rush Henrietta Town Line Road and West Henrietta Road. And the school buses are not even allowed to pass through that east to west because that's how dangerous it is. Something has to be done.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. McGlashan.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters again for hosting this tonight and making sure that we were able to discuss a lot of concerns in the town. And thank you to the residents that had questions and inputted those. And I hope we were able to answer those for you the best we can, but please reach out if we didn't and if you'd like for us to expand upon it. I'm running as a team. It's not me, it's we. And I think we bring an advocacy approach to our town, and we need true advocates in this town before it's too late. We're facing a budgetary issue. We have a lack of communication with residents, and we have safety issues with flooding and speeding. And we can only tackle those issues if we unite our community together, bring all stakeholders together, representation in our government on both sides, to make sure that our residents are getting their needs met and that they're safe here in our community. And we need to make sure that our community is affordable so that people can stay here in our rural community and not taxed out of their homes and making a decision whether they're going to keep the lights on or if they're going to put food on their table that night. And us as a government can make an impact on that. Our board members have said that our tax is such a small percentage, but it is getting higher and higher every year. And with this $1 million offset, that's not sustainable. And next year, we're going to face a huge problem. So we really need true advocates on there that make sure that residents are being listened to, that they have input on what our town is going to do going forward. And again, it's a small community in Rush. Let's keep this a great community and let's unite together and really bring our Rush neighbors together to make the best decisions for our town going forward. And thank you again, everybody.
Thank you. And I also reiterate thanks, everybody. Thanks to those who watched. Thanks to our candidates who are obviously well informed and care greatly about the town of Rush. I remind everybody that this will be recorded, that it has been recorded and will be on the League of Women Voter website so that you and friends and other interested parties can watch it, even if this timing wasn't convenient. So thanks, everybody. And with that, I turn it back to Julie Burns.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. The debate has been recorded, as Karen said, so it'll be uploaded to the League's YouTube channel within a day or so. We'll email a link of the recording to all who registered for the debate, and we encourage everyone to share the link widely so that other voters can have a chance to learn about the candidates. Just a reminder that early voting is underway and Election Day is November 4th. We have other debates on our YouTube channel, and for a complete list, you can visit our website at lwv-rma.org. Thank you so much again for coming. Really appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.